I stated in our breakout session, hunger is merely a symptom of poverty. And at the rate that we are going, we are only going to continue to manage poverty. We need to work to eliminate poverty by employing several methods, including raising wages, incentivizing people to work, and changing legislation that surrounds it.
Moving on too quickly.
No problem. Thank you, sir. In this country, the last thing anyone needs to be concerned about is what they're going to eat. I literally believe we should not be sleeping at night if our neighbor needs something to eat. How many of us have had children say to us, "Hey mom, I'm really hungry," and our response is, "Go get something to eat." There are many children and people that can't just go get something to eat. And it's okay for us to talk about it, but by the time we talk to the masses, it's sanitized, it's clean, or someone's hungry, they just go get something to eat. But there's a very powerful series of commercials that are out right now that let people see what it's like to have nothing to feed your child. There's a commercial where mom has a half a glass of milk and that's it, and she adds water to it. And that's reality. People need to see what this thing looks like for them to really get that I'm hungry is not just go get a snack, but I'm hungry and I can't go get anything. We talk about predatory practices in certain communities in our neighborhoods, and there is an influx or an abundance of what we call the corner stores. They don't carry particularly healthy food, and what they do carry is quite expensive. So if you have a child who's hungry and needs a snack, they're going to go to the corner store because it's very accessible. However, the price of the snack items that they're getting is outrageous, which further eats into the family's budget. So if you go to the store, the corner store, to get a Gatorade and maybe chips and some other snack, it can run you upward of $8. And if you have a SNAP card, which a lot of those stores accept, a lot of times when mom is at work, that's the only option, especially if the child cannot cook. So that's another thing that needs to be looked at. What types of businesses are catering to these types of communities that don't have grocery stores? That is truly a tough question. A lot of times I feel in my community of African Americans, we have acquiesced or we accept what's happening because it's always happened and no one has ever listened. If I must be honest, the oppressed just cannot advocate for themselves. We desperately need allies that don't look like us, sound like us, or come from where we come from to lend their voice. So I believe that I would begin to rally the troops and appeal to my wonderful friends of all different backgrounds to help me help the people that are being oppressed. We simply cannot advocate for ourselves. It just doesn't work. I believe that everyone has a different sense of what appeals to them. I'm the person that if I hear that you're suffering, I'm going to jump. But there are some people that hear of suffering and how it will impact society, and that will make them jump. So I believe that we have to come at this thing from a couple of different angles to rally the troops, because we can't rally them based on one specific feeling. There are some people that are moved by numbers. So I believe that that is definitely the way to rally the troops, is to know your audience. But I must also say, as it relates to voting, my community sometimes doesn't have a great turnout. And a lot of times it's because we don't know what's really important to us. We need to begin to explore what matters to us. When we know that, we can then begin to seek the policies and the candidates that mirror that. And I believe that that will help us begin to be more civically involved. You know, telling people to vote, it sounds like a really great notion, but an ill-informed voter is maybe just as bad as not voting at all. Well, let me first say that it is easy for me personally to see the gloom and doom of the situation, but I have to remind myself consistently there is some great work being done out here. And it starts one family at a time. And I can say that one model that has consistently worked is the model of circles. which we do here out of St. Luke's. And we believe in bridging social capital, which means that we believe that intentional relationships between people that probably would never ever meet works. We have annual reports out in the hallway if you want to see the results of that initiative. So I would say that it's hard to say where to start. I can say what has worked, and I believe that that can be modeled. There are so many organizations out here doing the work, and I think that it takes a multifaceted, multi-agency approach to that to actually get this problem solved. So with an increase in crime, we need more jails, law enforcement, probation officers. Crime is big business, point blank. The more crime there is, the more stuff we need, right? So from the people running the prisons to the people that issue out the commissary, the potato chips, and the phone calls, people bank on crime. Do we really want it to end or not so much? It's a good question I think that we need to ask our legislators, we need to ask our society. Do we really want crime to end? Because it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like we want to build more jails and prisons, right? Really something to consider. So when we talk about recidivism, when we talk about programs that will really, really work, I don't think that people really want that to happen. And I have to tell you, I have people that call me constantly about getting their record sealed, because I do kind of know that process. Information is king. Even if you can't seal your record, there's something called a level 2 background clearance that may be able to help you. It is a process. But when you have a level 2 clearance, you can work in those fields that are governed by the Agency for Healthcare and Administration, or ACA, and or DCF. However, DCF tends to give people a really hard time. I've seen them request the same documents over and over from people, and it costs money. You know, it seems like there's really somebody stomping on people's necks to keep them where they are. But we really need to think about it. Do people really want crime to end? I say no. I mainly want us to remember that hunger is a symptom of poverty. We must end poverty in our country. And a lot of times it's right around the corner from us. It's important for us to be on the cusp of what's going on in our communities. It's super important for us to work to end the policies that perpetuate poverty. And that is the way we will effectively stop managing hunger and end hunger.